Good evening and welcome everyone. Tonight we gather across the country, virtually and in person, to celebrate 35 years of Chief Executive Women. Firstly, thank you to you, Amelia, for your moving acknowledgement to country. As outgoing CEW President and on your behalf, I acknowledge that we meet tonight across the diverse lands, and I pay our respects to traditional custodians and elders of these lands. I pay tribute to the strength and inspiring contribution of Aboriginal women leading their communities and acknowledge the significant resilience they have shown in dealing with the enormous challenges their communities face. I also acknowledge dignitaries joining us here this evening. I join Nicole in acknowledging and sincerely thanking our generous sponsors and partners for their unwavering support through a most challenging COVID period, and I welcome their guests. I welcome our guest speaker, Shamara Wickramanayake, our extraordinary and resilient CEW members, our founding members and past presidents, and our incoming president, Sam Mostyn. As we all know, 2020 has been a year of unique challenges. We have seen amazing leadership and weak leadership. We have witnessed extraordinary work from people on the front lines of both the bushfires and the pandemic. We have witnessed resilience on a mass scale. This year, CEW celebrates 35 strong years as a community of women leaders. We are united, driven and resilient in our shared vision and purpose to make change for all women. We are unashamedly focused on women reaching their potential in any field they choose. As an organisation, we are anchored by a belief that women should have equal seats at the decision-making tables across Australia, at all levels of business, government and throughout the community. We need leaders who can see society through the eyes of a woman if we are going to achieve our vision of equal economic and social choices and responsibilities for both women and men. Yet, 35 years on, we still have much to do. We must question why, even though women are as talented and capable as men, there are nowhere near enough women making it to the top of industry. I have to say I was bitterly disappointed with the results of our last CEW census. There was only one woman among the 25 CEOs appointed to the ASX 200 companies last year. There are only 10 female CEOs in these 200 companies, and it's the lowest level since our census began 4 years ago. And of all the key CEO feeder roles, most predominantly line roles, women make up only 12%. In 2019, a staggering 57% of our top 200 companies had no women in executive leadership team roles. And this year, that percentage of companies grew to a shocking 65%. So to be clear, in 2019, 114 companies had no women in executive leadership profit and loss line roles. And this year, that number grew to 129. 15 more companies went back to the bias of the white picket fence days of the 1950s. We have known for many years, since Workplace Gender Equity Agency began gathering data, that there is a persistent pay gap between women and men. This has been reinforced in today's scorecard released by WGEA, which not only showed that this gap continues, but that the number of companies taking action on this has actually gone backwards this year. It appears our daughters and female peers have no greater opportunity this year than last year or the year before. Why don't we care enough about this to make change? Our voices and our daughters' voices are not being heard or listened to. Their talent is not being recognised. For decades, CEW has worked to convince others of the value of women in leadership, yet we haven't seen nearly enough change. There is a persistent belief that gender equality and women in leadership is a nice to have, not a must have. Well, we know from recent research that women in all levels of leadership makes business sense, and that businesses with gender balance perform better and are more profitable. No longer should Australia accept that we, a nation of high intellect, training and education, sit so far down on opportunities for women. So we ask, what needs to change? There are three key areas of focus that I think we need to action. First of all, we need to address the massive tax and benefit disincentives for women with young children who work full-time. In 1978, 42 years ago, the percentage of women's full-time workforce participation was 26%. In 2020, that number has hardly changed. This year, it is just 30%. And we know that it's full-time or near full-time roles that provide people with the pathway to senior executive positions, promotions, equal superannuation balances, financial security, and ensuring social and safety choices. Affordable childcare is the infrastructure required to release the productivity of women by enabling them to work greater than part-time. The current childcare support policies disadvantage parents from maintaining full-time work. Picking up work on days 4 and 5 of the week can actually leave families financially worse off than working part-time. Critics of our proposed policy of greater childcare support label this as welfare. It wasn't welfare during the COVID crisis. It was the key enabler for so many parents to dedicate day after day after day as key frontline workers. Finally, the work of women with caring responsibilities was recognised. Childcare is not welfare. It's a nation-building investment. As KPMG and the Grattan Institute, among others, have so authoritatively shown, greater investment in childcare will contribute a massive boost to the GDP. It will provide huge stimulus, in particular to the female-dominated industries, which also happen to be the fastest-growing sectors of our economy, such as hospitality, health, tourism, social services and education. It will also enable women to rightfully take their place and contribute in male-dominated industries. This is an investment our nation needs and cannot afford to delay if we want to harness the full productivity and participation of our talented workforce to build for recovery. CEW has taken affordable childcare to the top tables within the government. Many of our leaders are listening, but too many are dismissive. The economic and social benefits are inescapable. Business leaders understand this, but we are very dependent on governments to act. Second, but no less important, we must make it the norm that fathers take parental leave. Currently in Australia, only 5% of parental leave is taken up by men. In Sweden, almost 100% of men take up parental leave. We must remove the bias that caring for children is only for women and that it is bad for your career. Caring is for all of us and all families for us to share and enjoy. And thirdly, leaders need to model flexible and remote working. One positive that has come from the COVID crisis is the universal adoption of adjustable work practices. After years of flexibility being viewed as a pink ghetto, remote and flexible work has been legitimised. In the space of 8 months, so many accepted norms and taboos have been brushed aside. We have learnt we can consult with our doctors remotely, we can run a bank from our spare room at home, we can attend board meetings while our children study in the same room, we can make beds in between staff meetings, and we can be more productive with our time by not travelling to interstate or even local meetings. In summary, it is simple. Taking away penalties and disincentives for working full-time, having fathers share parental leave and care, and maintaining the positives from COVID, such as flexible and remote working, for both men and women will massively boost women's productivity in the workforce and allow them to reach whatever potential they choose. In conclusion, when I reflected on women, resilience and work, I thought of how many women in Australia are dealing with circumstances more difficult than many of us can imagine. Women who are working full-time on minimal wage, raising young children, and often dealing with difficult social issues within their household. The need for them to reach their full potential and the benefit that that would give us as a society is just as important as for those of us who are in the ASX 200. I also reflected that this year we watched some dreadful examples of behaviour to women, both publicly and in the workplace. We have seen top male leaders treating women's voices and opinions as second-rate or irrelevant. We have seen women subjected to sexual harassment at work and male leaders and businesses looking the other way. And we have seen women subjected to public vitriol and criticism that does not meet our ethos of fair praise and fair criticism. The solution is treating women as equals, giving us all a fair go, harnessing the benefit of our skills, investing in the female economy and sharing caring responsibilities. We are on the right side of history and we will win this fight, but only if we harness our power in numbers, unity and resolve. I implore everyone who has joined us this evening to do everything in your power to hasten change towards fairness and equality of opportunity for all women in the workplace. It should be so easy for Australians to fix this if we want to. Thank you very much.